She never spoke, which made her obvious, the way death makes the air obvious in an empty chair, the way sky compressed between bare branches is more gray or blue, the way a window is more apparent than a wall. She held her silence to her breast like a worn coat, smoke an armful of roses. Her silence colored the smaller silences that came and went, that other students stood up and filled in. I leaned near the window in my office. She sat on the edge of a chair, hips rigid, fidgeting while I made my little speech. February light pressed its cold back against the glass, sealing us in. She focused on my lips as I spoke, as if to study how it's done. To the sheer mechanics of it, orchestration of jaw and tongue, teeth shifting in tandem, shaping the air. So I stopped, let her silence drift over us. Let it sift in like smoke or snow. Let its petals settle on my shoulders. I looked outside at the branches of a stripped tree. Winter starlings folded in their speckled wings, chilled flames shuddering at the tips. Students wandered across campus as if underwater, hands and hair unfurling, their soundless mouths churning, irate or ecstatic, I couldn't tell, ready to burn it all down or break into song. When I looked back, her hands had found the window. Tree students, birds swimming by, mute in their element. It was painful to hear the papery rasp of her folding and unfolding hands, to watch color smudging her neck and temple, branching to miss the delicate rim of one ear. I listened to the air sunder between us, the feverish hush collapse. I could hear her breathe, smoke rising from ice. I could see what it cost her to make that leap, what heat it takes for the body to blossom into speech. Today's sermon is titled, Stay Ready, an Advent of Rest. And I would say it's part of my ongoing, I think, personal and communal exploration of rest. I want to first extend gratitude to two people, Tricia Hersey, who I do not know personally, but who is the Nat Bishop. And she wrote this book called Rest is Resistance, and it greatly inspired some work that, I hear some snaps, I think, maybe? Yeah, there you go. And it greatly inspired some work that was being done on in the drum group a few years back. So DRUM stands for Diverse and Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries. And then I was excited to hear when I joined the Office of BGLTQ Student Life that it was a central text that the person who would become my boss was looking at and having our students engage with. So I'm thankful to all those folks who introduced me to Tricia Hersey and also have introduced me to what the ongoing work could look like institutionally and personally. So I bring that lineage of burgeoning rest to you all here today. So with reference to rest, I have this question. I have many questions. I'll leave you with some questions at the end, but one of the questions that I'd like to start out with is, what might a season of expectant rest— wait a second, you're asking me to do something while I'm expecting— yeah, isn't that contradictory? Perhaps. Expectant rest look like? Within the Christian tradition, today is the first Sunday of Advent. It's a time of preparation, of expectation for what's to come. Many largely interpret this as the coming of the birth of Jesus, marked by the 25th of the month of December. However, scholars have deduced that Jesus was most likely born in the spring, not the winter. Yet the Christian mapping over the pagan holidays at this time of year persists. And what I've learned within my own multi-religious path of practice and resistance is that there is still so much for me to gain from looking at them all and seeing what glimmers, what resonates for me. For many years, one of my favorite sayings from the Buddha was, "There is but one moment to awaken. That moment is now." First read it and was like, wow. I held on to these words during difficult times, allowing them to buoy me with hope for the future and ground me in the present reality. Over time, I saw a shift in my interpretation of these words, teaching myself as life taught me, as this wisdom of these words taught me, that what I was being gifted with in this spiritual readying was hope for the present. While putting together the sermon, I thought it would be most fitting to look up the seeds of this quote. Like many quotes, it has been ascribed to the Buddha. Though I am no Buddhist scholar, I am a curious and ardent researcher of words and stories. Thankfully, a translation of the Bhattakara Sutta, an auspicious day from the Pali by American Buddhist monk Thanissaro Bhikkhu, gives English-speaking audiences and practitioners the words that likely inspired this quote, which has subsequently been attributed to the Buddha. And you'll remember those words from our chalice lighting today. Drawn from a sutta, or a text that is primarily about or contains discourses by the Buddha, the sutta we collectively read from today has been widely interpreted to mean the concept, to be pointing to the concept of the present. Yet, according to Tanisa Buki, the concept of the present, as may be more widely understood by us today, likely meant something quite different at the time of the Buddha. Bhikkhu, relying on the words of the Venerable Nyanyanmoli, interprets this sutta as one that does not center the play of cosmic forces, the stars, or the lucky omens, but one's own development of the mind's attitude to time is what makes a day auspicious. I'll say it again. I had to slow down and reread that one myself. It's one's own development of the mind's attitude to time is what makes a day auspicious. This day, tomorrow, the day in the future you are waiting for. In Catholic churches, the gospel reading that generally accompanies this day, this first Sunday of Advent, is from the book of Mark. And perhaps surprisingly, perhaps not surprisingly, to some of us here, it does not speak directly to the birth of Jesus, but allows Jesus to allude to his own rebirth. From the Gospel according to Mark, chapter 13, lines 33 to 37. Jesus said to his disciples, "Be watchful, be alert. You do not know when the time will come. It is like a man traveling abroad, he leaves home and places his servants in charge, each with his own work, and orders the gatekeeper to be on the watch. Watch, therefore. You do not know when the Lord of the house is coming, or whether in the evening or at midnight, or at cockcrow, or in the morning. May he not come suddenly and find you sleeping. What I say to you, I say to all, watch. For a long time, I wondered what I was to be on the lookout for. Truly, I would read this on Sundays. I would attend the first Advent service of the year. If serving as a reader that Sunday, I would utter the words, the word of the Lord, and the congregation, sometimes myself if I was in it, would respond, thanks be to God. I was told to get ready and stay ready for the coming of Jesus, for his death and the work to come. Not only for his birth again, which was not in December as I would learn, but for his death and resurrection. Perhaps it was in these Catholic teachings of getting ready and excited and even joyfully expectant for the uncertain gifts that were promised to come that somehow created an ideological, theological, and dare I say, physiological link to the Buddhist ethical teachings that would enter into my mind, heart, and spirit too. We, as Unitarian Universalists, are not meant to idly watch. Yes, we are called to witness the suffering and celebrate the joy around us and within us. For if we cannot acknowledge the suffering or celebrate the joys in our own 24-hour days in the present, then what hope do we have truly to extend it to the future? And how are we to witness? Well, I would offer in community and in silence and in rest. I'd like to take a nod from Reverend Rob Hardy's earlier service this month and invite a time for us to be in contemplative silence with one another and with ourselves. What is it that you are waiting for? What is it you need to allow to get in to stay ready for it? And dare I say, is it already here on this auspicious day of rest? May we allow ourselves to invite it in. Amen.